Well, good afternoon on this Sunday afternoon again. Welcome to the Step Up, Make a Difference podcast. I'm your host, Mike Peacock. We're going to be joined here in a second, maybe in person or maybe in voice only, by Coach Marty Durden, as we usually are. And we've got a great special guest for you here today. But Marty's been having a little technical difficulties with the weather that's been going on here in Georgia yesterday and today. And he's having a little bit of connectivity issues. And right now, I don't know if he's here or is not here. But at any rate, our special guest this week is Coach Tim Fanning of Glenwood School in Phoenix City. And Coach Fanning is now a member of the Chattahoochee Valley Hall of Fame here in the Chattahoochee Valley area. He has been an ultra successful head coach of the baseball program. He's the athletic director for the Gators over at Glenwood, and they have had a tremendously successful program under his leadership and have moved this year to Alabama High School Athletic Association play after many years in the Alabama Independent Schools Association. And they have leveled up and moved over to public school competition and have had a very, very successful first year. So let's welcome Coach Tim Fanning into the Step Up and Make a Difference podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Coach
Thank
Fanning.
you so much, man.
Coach, I think we've lost Marty for the time being again. He might pop up here in just a second. Having
No
some
worries.
difficulties. We were hearing him good, and we were going to go with just his audio, and evidently his internet may have popped off again. But first things first, Coach. Right off the top, want to send a absolute great congratulations to you on being the 2025 Alabama 3A state baseball champions. You just earned that honor this week with your team, first year in public school competition, and what a great year you guys had in 2025.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's been an amazing journey this year, really. Entire school, making a big decision to lead the AISA that the school had been a part of for 54 years and going to the Alabama High School Athletic Association. It's something that we've contemplated for a number of years, to be quite, and we just when I first started here 26 years ago, the AISA is twice the size that it is now, with the because of a myriad of reasons, schools closing. A lot of schools have left the AISA and gone to the AHSA. Schools that we used to play all the time and have had a really good success in the Alabama High School Athletic Association. So our board and headmaster determined that it was time for us to do that, and it's been a great year, to be honest. Not just in baseball. I'm so thankful we were able to win a state championship. I felt the team. Or in my mind, obviously I'm biased. I did feel like we had a chance to win a state championship. I had a special group of young men, very talented, that have been together, since they were in seventh grade. There's 5 seniors lost at the end of the year. They won 7th through 9th. They had a JV state tournament in the AISA, and they won all those years, and then won 3 straight as sophomore, juniors, and seniors. So it was a very decorated group that we're losing. We're going to miss them, but we're thankful for what, they did for Glenwood baseball while they were here.
Absolutely. Just a tremendous group. And you, as you said, this was the 3rd straight state championship for that group of seniors.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, state championships are state championships. They don't come along very often unless you're Glenwood. This is your 11th state championship as a head coach at Glenwood, 10 of those in AISA. Did this one feel a little bit different, being that you had made the jump over to public school competition? Was this a different feeling? Is this something that maybe maybe had a little bit more meaning to it than the others, or how would you?
Well, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't different. Now, might be shocked at why, but I mean, it's not so on the field. It didn't feel different because at the end of the day, guys are competing to win in that atmosphere, or whatever. It's just who's ever in front of them, they're going to play. They're going to play as hard as they can possibly play at the stage or the association. That's not really the thing. But for certain, it did feel different from a standpoint. It started the very first game of the year when we were able to play Central High School and the road 3 miles and play, and then unbelievable atmosphere. Coach Keogh's so successful there. Just that commonality of years this school has been in existence and all players knowing each other but never being able to play against each other. So it started from go like that. And I kind of knew that coming into the school year, that once we got to the spring, kind of how I explained, our guys with the steep tradition that we have in baseball, springtime was where the rubber meets the road. And not just because it's baseball. We're the only program that played all the local schools that were able to do that. So as far as outside intensity and the atmospheres and things like that, I'd be, kind of ratcheted up. And like I said, that's why I'm so proud of the kids. We never got too high or too low. I think that showed their maturity, having played together for so long. Obviously, when you go over to the AHSA, you hear comments and stuff like that. It's about, we have our own kids. We don't recruit kids, things like that. That's been going on forever. I've been in any public school athletic association. Doesn't matter that it's Alabama. It's like that in every, and I thought it was pretty funny. Their coach, we're proud of our homegrown kids. And, I've actually coached our kids longer than he's coached his, because I've coached ours since 7th grade, not 9th grade. So, you know what I mean? That's just and that is what it is, but it's just another noise factor that, and so no, I would say it's, and me, I did feel, the weight of 54 years of alumni that never had this opportunity to play Central and Smith and Russell County, Harris County, Columbus High, Northside. Obviously those probably meant a little more to me because I'm from Columbus than some of the kids from over here. But at the same time, they're all great programs, and you have that opportunity and that platform to showcase what I've always known and all the other people have always known is how good our kids are. And to be honest, that's one of my biggest motivations, was to be able to share our kids with the rest of the state and in our Bi-City area, and that's what we were able to do. So I was probably a little more intense, I would say, throughout the year, just because of maybe some unadded pressure that I put on myself, maybe to carry that mantle for all the alumni. But it was definitely a lot of fun. I can say that.
Well, yeah, anytime you're coaching a program and you make history, that's, you carried a lot of weight for a lot of past years, and all of a sudden you break through, and in your first year you're able to be successful. It had to be a good feeling when that last out was made in Jacksonville.
Whew. Yes,
and probably had to be a big weight lifted off your shoulders.
It was, and I've been blessed to be in those situations, but to be on that stage and it was different from I don't know that it's any fault of the AISA, but the AHSA, man, they just put on a show, and it just made the kids feel amazing. The facilities, the attention to detail, the professionalism, I mean, all that they truly felt special. The press conferences, just all of it. I mean, it was first class, and there's no way to say otherwise than that. And like I said, I mean, I just having our kids be able to experience that, it meant a lot to me. And when you get that last out, it was just like, like your whole body just kind of limps, I mean, because it is in this game, man. I don't care what the score is until that last out. That's the hardest one to get, is that last one. And I don't know, just watching them celebrate, and it's always, it never gets old. People ask me that all the time, and well, compare this team to that team and all this other stuff, and I let everybody do that. I'm not dare touching that with a 10-foot pole. But every single team is different, and every year is different, and they're all really as special.
Absolutely. Well, this is I think this was the 25th or 26th state championship in Glenwood history.
Yes, sir.
25th
yes,
state
sir.
championship in Glenwood
Yes, sir.
history. You have been at Glenwood now how many years?
26. This is my 20. Oh, my goodness. 21st, I believe, 21st as a head coach. One of those years being COVID that we didn't get to finish. So, it's been a long time. Almost half the length of the school being open, and half my life. I'm about to be 52. So, I mean, I tell some people that this school, that they not only helped me raise my daughters, but they helped raise me too. I mean, I'm a young man and was fortunate enough to just be mentored by some of the most special people on the planet when I got here. And it's part of the reason I took the job is because of Wayne Trawick and Doug Key, and which was the headmaster at the time. And, they're not three finer men to start your coaching career, in my opinion, than those three people. So,
absolutely, those are legendary names around there for sure. And it's great to hear you say that. But you've gotten a lot of accolades over the years, and all of those are well and good. But you got a huge one this past year when you were inducted into the Chattahoochee Valley Hall of Fame. What was that like, and how was that experience?
That was I would say that was probably a little more personal than some of the other things, just because it kind of blends at the Bi-City area, and I grew up in Columbus, and just standing on that stage, and especially what was really cool about that is that everyone that went in, I had a connection to, which was crazy. And I looked on that list, I was like, man, this is a God thing right here. Like, I mean, Adam Thomas and I mean, we've known each other since, he was 16 years old, probably. I mean, playing down at Darnell during the summers. And I mean, we've just been good friends for forever. I mean, like our coaching careers they kind of ran beside each other, as far as time when we started coaching and all that. And then Gary Ingram, I played against him in high school, and he played at Middle Georgia right before I got there in college. A super dude, man, like just salt of the earth. I mean, man, it's just somebody you look up to that's ahead of you in high school and playing at Columbus High. And then Coach Creek taught and coached me at Durden. And then Tawana, like she was there, like she went to Durden too. So it was, it was just really intertwined. But, just to be on that stage and think where I came from, on the south side of Columbus and living in trailer parks. I mean, it's a long way from, and not to have any self-pity from that, but to really of what it took to get to that point and how many people helped me along the way, and first of all, my mother being the most selfless woman on the planet, and the greatest example of a servant that I've ever seen. But, the boys clubs, East Columbus Boys Club, after we moved from the South Side, moved across the street from Eastern Little League, it changed my life. It changed the course of my life forever. And, the boys club and Eastern Little League and all these people that just with no strings attached, invested in me, and, at that time, didn't really have the money for me to do all that stuff, and it never mattered. Somehow or another, my registration fees always got paid, and I always got football equipment, and I always had a glove to use, and and that just really stuck with me, a long time. And God's path is, it's hard to see sometimes, and but it's there. And I preach that to my kids all the time. We're not as smart as he is. We think we are because we're men a lot. Not. And if you just got to keep looking at signs, and he'll direct you where to go. And that's just kind of, I trusted him, I guess 26 years ago to take a chance and apply for a job at Glenwood. And it's, I pinch myself sometimes, to be honest.
Yeah, look where you are now. How about that?
Right. I mean, it's
something great.
It's amazing.
Let's talk about you. You touched on it a little bit. You're growing up, but I believe I read in some of your biographical information that you were raised by your mother, basically by herself.
Yes.
And
yes.
So you grew up part of the time in South Columbus, then you moved over to East Columbus, and then what took place to make you fall in love with the game of baseball?
Well, I think it was that, I never picked up baseball till I was probably 9 or just be honest, to not be too, to go in too much detail, but like first, 9 years of my life, like it was, it's pretty rough. And, survival is probably the word that comes up most, and you got a mom and, she ends up, remarrying and, and there was, that didn't last too long. There was alcoholism and abuse and, all that sort of thing. So you were just, honestly, it was just survival. And, important because, she saw an opportunity to move to, a little house. It was directly across the street. We never owned anything growing up or anything like that. It was always renting and whatever. And this house had holes in walls and holes in floors and whatever, but it was away from where we were. And it was directly across the street from Eastern Little League, which coincidentally, East Columbus Boys Club is right beside it. Right. Basically that field and that boys club helped raise me for the next, 4, 5, 6 years, and when you're in a situation like my mom and she's trying to work 3 jobs and, you have to do some quick growing up and you have to take, and I really believe that my path, and I would have strayed if I didn't have those things in those places and men, Butch Sanfords and Mike Rozeski and, the Hudsons and Mr. Browns and, that just invested in me. And if I ever needed anything, they made sure I had it. And introduced to the game of baseball. Before then, I'd probably just only played basketball growing up, and I was in, it's pretty easy to find a pickup basketball game, but moving over just kind of, it introduced me to team sports, and that I just knew that was the path I needed in my mind to make something better myself.
And then you talk about your high school and then your college days, and then what led you to become a coach. Just kind of go through.
Well, high school, and then we moved again. Actually, I went to Rothschild in middle school, and that's where actually I met Thrift's granddad was the first interaction I had with him. I was rocking and rolling and to beat the dog crap out of everybody back then. Like he had all the players. And but my mom moved, and I was tiny in middle school. I'm talking about 5'1", like I mean, I was tiny. She wouldn't let me play football after I left Edgewood Red Devils. And, but anyway, she moved to another house she found in right on Bellwood Connector. To be honest, there's not many people who know where this house is, and it's kind of crazy to think about it now, where the Goo Goo Car Wash and the Chevron right there at Bellwood Connector, where people used to just drive around on Friday nights, whatever, in their cars, and all the teenagers. But there was a dirt road back there. It had like 5 shotgun houses back there, and I used to call it the Dirt Circle. And that put me in the Durden district. So I ended up going to Daniel, which is no longer a school anymore, for my 8th grade year. And then I went to a lot of schools. I went probably 5 or 6. And it became a home for me. And I met a lot of great coaches there, and people who were willing to listen to me, and Coach Maynard and Coach Carter and Coach Bush and Coach Creek. And, it's I don't forget them like that. It was there again. I couldn't afford to do everything. Coach Waldrop, he was a football coach and my baseball coach for most of the time I was there. And, my mom couldn't afford a Letterman jacket, but that didn't stop me from having a Letterman jacket, And I think that those things stick with you, whether they stick with you or not. At that time, they do. So I actually signed a baseball scholarship to go to Berry College from there. And when I got up there, I played a semester, and the head coach that signed me and the recruiter, they both left. And so I had friends that were at Middle Georgia playing, and they told me to come down there, and I just took a chance. And I didn't have a car. Never had a car till I was, 23. So I convinced one of my teammates, Rusty Evans. He's still a dear friend of mine today. I've gone and spoke, at his conferences and stuff like that. He's a coach as well. And he took me all the way down to Middle Georgia from Rome and dropped me off. And I didn't know what was going to happen. And I don't know if Coach Sapp felt sorry for me or whatever, but I never left. And then I ended up playing there for 2 years, or a year and a half, and then signed a baseball scholarship again to Marshall University up in Huntington, West Virginia. And, chance to play D1 baseball. And, it was, I had a lot of offers in the South. I think God was taking me that direction for a reason. And it's all, when you go back and you look at it, and I try to get people to do that and look at God's past for their life. If they'll go back and actually write it down, I think what helped them make the decisions and led us, to certain decisions in our life. And, it's harder to do that with your players because they don't really have life experiences yet. There are some things, but I think it's a great exercise one to do, to be quite honest. And I think they would be a little astounded at what they would find if they'd gone back through their life and why you ended up in these places and things like that. So looking back on now, I do know why I ended up going there. And there's a lot of different things and people I met there, having that connection leading to some of my former players playing there, all these things are all interconnected. And so then when I came home, I played pro ball in the Frontier League, and it was under contract with the then turned into the Springfield Capitals. But long story short, I had a couple classes to finish up at Columbus State, to get my degree, and I didn't want to stay up at Marshall. They were going to pay for it, but I just wanted to come home. I was engaged at the time to my wife now, and so I took a job at Neil's Sports Shop, and ended up that's 96. The torch relay, the Olympic torch relay, they were offering spots to go out on the road because the Bradley Company and Coca-Cola Coca-Cola was a sponsor. So I was like, man, I ain't never been nowhere. That'd be great. Like, I've just, growing up the way I did, like I'd never been anywhere that baseball had not taken me, so an opportunity to travel, until I went to pro, it just sounded really appealing to me. So I did that. And I mean, we could sit here and talk about this for hours, And it's crazy. But anyway, I ended up working for the game. When I come back, they offered me a full-time position, and then the game headwears, and the Stillwells and Bradley's, they're all kind of intertwined, and it was kudzu and it was, all that. But I was working there, and I was playing baseball on the weekends, like men's league on Sundays, because once I decided to Bradley Company full time, I didn't go back and play baseball anymore. I was just kind of done with that chapter of my life. I was ready to get married and things like that. And so AJ Kehoe, this the head coach at Central. He was the coach at Glenwood, and they had gone through some. And he's like, man, you need to come up here, and because we play together on the weekends and 100-degree weather on Sundays with the old men still wanting to play baseball, And he's like, man, you need to come apply. And so I did, and God just had it on my heart. That was where I needed to go because those men, I mentioned before, and I took a pretty significant pay cut, and my wife at the time, she was getting her master's in physical therapy. She's a physical therapist, and it was a lot of ramen noodles and hot dogs, for a long time, and it didn't matter to me. And she's always been the one that supported everything I've done. So she's like, if you want to do it and you love it, you go do it. And but I never, to be honest, I don't know, man. I mean, when you don't grow up with much, I mean, you don't need much either. You know what I mean? So there's something to be said about that. What do you miss? Stuff you never had. Like, I mean, it wasn't to me, if I had a place to lay my head, use the bathroom, and, have some clothes on my back, I mean, that's pretty good, so, man, it just, I got here, man, and it grabbed me. It grabbed me something fierce, and, so that's just kind of how I got to Glenwood. I know that was very just my path in my life is really crazy.
And everybody doesn't have the same story. Some people have these really easy stories, and it's pretty straight line to follow. But the most interesting ones and the most meaningful ones are the ones that zigzag all over the place. Kind of like your story there, and it is how you get to where you are. Sometimes is the best testimony you've got that God gives you, and through that journey. And it's like you said. I think you said something really great a while ago. He said if you look back and you go back and you write down different things about the places you've been, you understand a lot more about God's plan and why some things happened here and there and yonder as you were coming through, and you start to see reasons. Oh, this is why I was there, and this is why I had to go here, and this is why I'm I'm where I am now. And
absolutely
so many things like that. It's incredible. Sometimes, and the only explanation is that God put you there, and God had you there for a reason, and it's amazing to discover that sometimes, and to realize that, to finally that bell goes off, and your eyebrows go up, and you're like, holy cow, that was I never really thought about that before, and you come to that realization. But you mentioned some things. Go ahead.
the funniest word in the English language to me as I've gotten older is coincidences. That's so funny. Now, if you're a non-believer, that's an okay word, but if you're a
Right.
believer, coincidences, I don't have any part of my vocabulary. It really doesn't, and that's a hard man, especially because we have bigger egos. We do, and that's fine. We think we're smarter than everybody, and but coincidences, man, that don't exist in my life.
I hear you. And Marty has shown up on the screen. Now, I don't know if he can hear us. We can see him, and I don't know if we can hear him, but he's here. He's joined us as his internet problems have continued to
No, he gone again.
and there he went again. So this is an unusual edition of the show, but let's jump back. If we're getting on up in time here, let's talk about the most important things. First of all, you are a servant leader. You have coached as a servant leader, and you have employed servant leadership throughout your time. And if you want to call your coaching career a ministry, I think that's a great term for it. But you have developed some definite advantages or some definite tenets of servant leadership as you've gone through coaching. And I guess my question is, who influenced you in the realm of becoming a servant leader, and how did you start employing servant leadership as you went through the ranks and gained experience as a coach?
Treywick, one of the first things that I just noticed, immediately is how he treated everyone, like just how he was around people, and in my young mind right there, I'm like, okay, this is, if not the most or one of the most successful high school football coaches in the state of Alabama history. And he is just the nicest dude. Like, and I'm just thinking in my mind, like, okay, I need to just, and just watch how he treats people and watch how, and I think it started that way for me, like, because it comes with an attitude, because when you don't compromise on like your philosophy, there will be some difficult moments, right? And I think me being an assistant coach for 4+ years, and coaching 3 different sports, when I first started, I think it helped me a lot. It allowed me to watch, and I may pick this up from Coach Treywick and this up from Coach Key, and just watch how they interact. I'm a people person, like, meaning, like, there's a lot of things I'm not good at, but like watching people, reading like body language and like how they interact, I'm very good at. And I would see how people would interact with each other, especially coaches. And then, man, I kept journal, whatever you want to call it, notepad, and I just, okay, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to, and then, and I'll be honest, I did read a lot of leadership stuff. I didn't get into reading until I got into coaching, to be quite honest. And I just looked for every kind of, Maxwell, obviously he's the one that jumps out on the, that, everyone knows probably, but, anything I could find that would kind of pick the brain of somebody that's been successful from a servant leadership standpoint, and the more I started reading, now, okay, well, this guy's a Christian and this guy acts like this and this guy's not. So what are the difference? What, what I mean? Why are they leading this way? I just kind of took that. I always believe, like, to be quite honest, the actual X's and O's of things I learned in those first 4 or 5 years, like, that wasn't that difficult for me. Like, teaching, that wasn't, I mean? I when I get mad or whatever, I'll say something like, man, I can teach a monkey to bunt, man. Like, seriously, why can't you do this? Like, I don't have a problem teaching, but the other things surrounding your program, I think, are so much more important. And I think when you build the pillars of your coaching philosophy, like if you don't have a rock foundation, and when I mean that is like, the program absolutely comes first. Okay, so if that's the case, like where I kind of go backwards, meaning like winning is like the end result. Like that's like eighth on the list if you want to do it that way. So if you take care of like your decision making is huge. Like in these years, like coaching high school kids, like so much decision making. So what's your priorities on your decision making? Okay, so before you make a decision, all right, how does it affect your relationship with Christ? How does it affect your family? How does it affect? Then how does it affect your athletics? Okay, so if you hit all those before you ever get to the athletics part, it's going to be a good decision, right? So I think those are the things that I wanted to establish. I mean, the way we carry ourselves, the way we interact with people, the way we treat others when we're in restaurants, we take our hats off. We always leave tips. We always thank the people who are serving us. Like we always put the chairs back. We always, all those things, they may seem trivial, but it creates a culture that means like we're not cutting corners. Like I'm not interested in cutting a corner so that you feel like you can be a little better, because I just always believe that the baseball on the field will take care of itself if you take care of all the other. Because one of the quotes from was it Ripken? Ripken seen he said about, if you take care of all the little things, you'll never have a big thing to worry about. That always stuck with me. It always stuck with me the first time I wrote that at the top of that notebook that I was, the entire time. And I've always approached it that way. Now, when you come in and you take over, there's some ups and downs for sure, especially when you come in and change a lot of things. But I just felt like I needed to work the foundation and the culture before I worried about the X's and O's and what was on the field, if that makes sense. So, and once you get kids to buy in, man, they just fall for you. I mean, because the biggest reason is they're running for themselves. If you ever get people to believe, it doesn't matter if it's baseball, if it's corporate America, if it's the church, whatever, like if they're serving something bigger than themselves, then they're ultimately going to be successful. Now, it may not be successful as the world values it, but you will ultimately be successful where it matters the most. And that's what I try to get our kids to all the time, man. I get, and I can't imagine what these kids go through with the amount of noise that they have that we never grew up with, as far as these, these brain killers, what I mean? Like it's, what I'm saying? I mean, it's like, and we have these conversations. We have a thing that I do in our program. It's called Keep It Real. And do it till I ever stop coaching. Like when we sit down and we talk, we're keeping it real. I'm not telling them what they want to hear. I'm telling them what they need to hear. And they're vice versa too. When I make mistakes, I'm owning up. I'm saying I messed up. Like this is my fault. Because as a man, the worst thing you can do is to pretend that you didn't make a mistake. You know what I mean? Because all that does is create that as a husband and as a father and as a leader, wherever that is. You know what I mean? Own it, remedy it, and move on. You know what I mean? And if we could do that as a society, that's part of the problem. I think we just hold on to useless nonsense. Like, I mean, everybody makes mistakes. There's only one perfect person that ever walked the face of the earth, and why pretend like that it's such a big deal? It's not, man. You make a mistake and you move on. But how do you conduct yourself when you make those mistakes?
Right.
Are you know what I mean? Like, are you just a good person? You're on a street. So are you a different person when you're hitting bad? Or you know what I mean? How do you treat your teammates when you're in a slump? I don't care how you treat them when you got a 15-game hit streak. I mean, I'm sure it's great, right? Because nothing's going wrong. So how do we do that? How do we do it? how do we carry ourselves when you throw a ball right down the middle and the ball? You know what I mean? Those are the things that my entire coaching career I have hammered and hammered and hammered because difference maker. And I'm never more proud than when people will pull me off to the side and just talk about, hey, I saw your kids at Waffle House. They were all together, man, and they were just the most polite kids. And I just wanted you to know that they just conduct themselves amazing. Like those things matter to me, and it should matter to everyone. But I told our kids, man, like you have a platform, just like people say, I have a platform to be a coach and a servant leader. You have a platform to show people there's another way to do it. Mm-hmm. Inspiration. And awesome. Anyway, I'm rambling. I can talk about this forever.
Hey, we can talk about this forever. There are a couple of other things I want to talk about. And one thing I want to bring up that I know is important to you as a servant leader coach, and that is your kids know how you feel about them. Your kids know that you care about them. Your kids know that you're involved in their life and you want to be involved in their life. And I think that's one reason you've had the buy-in you've had all these years is because they know you mean what you say and you're there. You're there for them. And I think that's a huge part of coaching and especially servant leadership coaching. Being a servant leader coach is those players have to know that you believe in them and that you're there for them. And, and I think you've done a tremendous job of that over the years. And that's why I think that's probably one of the foundational pillars of your success is that fact right there, that your players know you, they know you care about them and they care about you. And you've got a common goal in mind when you're together. And you've taught them that and you've ingrained in them, just like you said, doing the right things. And if you take care of all those other things, then your success on the field, it's going to come, and it might not be the level that a lot of people might expect or would say, oh, well, they had a pretty good year. It might have been a tremendous year for what went on inside.
Exactly.
And I think that's
totally
important.
Yeah, it's super important. Like I mentor a lot of coaches and they want advice and how to do things and this. Look, man, like I give you everything that you want. Like I send people our baseball philosophy is 25 pages. I have all that stuff. I have all the drills. I have all, but like foundationally understand, okay, what are wins for you? What is a win? That's important to understand. Okay. Like if you put outside pressure on you, like sometimes you lose sight of what's really important. Okay. Is it building this program where, like you said, those kids absolutely know that you love other people and how to serve others. And it leads to better grades and it leads to them the way they school. They end up going and getting college degrees and then they come back. I'm telling you right now, man, anytime our kids come back and they're back a lot. And that's what's so beautiful about our place, man. Our alumni, kids that play, they are around all the time and our kids see that and they know why that is. Right. And those are things that can really sustain a program through these unrealistic expectations that you may have. Okay. I mean, what is a win for you? I mean, that can be, and, so, and I will say this too. And one thing we have talked about, like for you to be like in a position of leadership and for you to be a servant leader, it takes a lot of sacrifice. Right. And you just talked about some of that. Yeah, it does. And your family has to be in it too. And in my opinion, it is a very bad mistake to do something like this by yourself. If your family is not in it with you, in my opinion, it's not going to work because it takes you work 60, 70 hours a week. But it can be an amazing, beautiful life too if you allow them to be a part of it and walk that path with you. You know what I mean? Because it becomes just as important to them. And it, like I said, I mean, you can't do it without your family. I mean, because if not, you're just going to be out there on the island and you're going to end up being alone. And I think it's important that we do it together. And there you went again.
And quickly, yeah, he went again. Yeah, he showed up and then he dropped off again. But he's obviously having some difficulties with his signals. But two things I want to touch on before we wrap this up. And one of those, you had an experience a few years ago where you went through a battle with cancer, and it's widely known around these areas. But a lot of people watching this podcast tonight may not know it. But you were diagnosed with colon cancer, and anytime you hear the C word, that brings a lot of anxiety, a lot of unknown, a whole bunch of other words into play in your life. But you've come through that. You went through the treatments and you stayed active, more active than I ever thought you would, to be honest with you, when I heard your story and heard what was going on. Talk just a little bit about that. We don't have a ton of time left, but I want you to talk just a little bit about that experience and what maybe that brought to the table for you going through that.
Well, what we talked about, the culture we created is part of what saved my life, in my opinion. Everything that we've been doing and working to build this, right? And we talked about God's path, right? Well, I knew at that moment instantly why I was still at Glenwood. And it was because of the way this community wrapped their arms around my family and me. And they were in that fight with us, and me coming, and you mentioned being more I never stopped coaching. While I was going through chemo, while I was going through radiation, and but it was because every time I stepped on this campus, I mean, I had some really dark times, and it was bad. And but when I stepped foot on this campus, and then these kids, man, they just it was rough, but they just inspired me to keep fighting, man. I mean, it was, stage 4 colon cancer. I didn't have, wasn't a great percentage of, success that people thought I was going to have. And I never felt that way, though. I really didn't. It was kind of like, I'm like, man, I've been coaching all these years and I've been freaking, hammering these kids about all this stuff. Well, it's time for me to put my money where my mouth is. And so that's what I did. I just got up every day it was possible. I mean, I would come to school with my try to hide it, be embarrassed about it, all this other stuff. And I remember Coach, why are you doing that? Like, why don't you want us to see that? I'm like, I don't know, man. I just don't want to be a bird. I don't want to. He said, Coach, we love you, man. I don't care about your pump, man. Like, it's, it just changes your perspective. And, so that all these people around here, and and it wasn't just the players, man. It was the administration and the teachers and the parents of all these years, man. It's just endless food, endless support, endless, whatever I needed. Like it was almost, I had like hands under me the entire time. Like just, so I don't know. It was rough, but at the same time, it was beautiful because, I thought God was healing my body, was actually healing my heart. And he gave me an entirely different perspective on what's important and actually being intentional. That's one of the biggest things that came out of that for me is really realizing how intentional we should be with our time. with our family, with our players, with our friends, with our moms, with our, like it's just, did not ever take that for granted. And in my position, as a coach, you have go two ways. Like you can use it negatively or positively, but one way or the other, you're gonna have an impact because we're with these kids more than their parents, and we have a great platform to impact. And I'm just thankful that was pretty rough, but at the same time now, it all me another platform to talk to people about,
Absolutely. And the last thing before we wrap this up, several years ago, you started something called Serve to Lead. And you guys have done tremendous work with that through baseball camps and clinics. And you've gone to other countries. You've gone to the Dominican Republic. You've gone, I think I read where you're either going or have been to Eastern Europe or to Europe.
Yeah.
And, you've done some great things. You've helped rebuild baseball fields and revamp baseball fields. You've taken equipment to kids that have never had equipment before. And talk a little bit about that, where that came from. And we can't spend too much time, but just tell a little bit about that, and we'll tell people about your website. They can go and learn more about that.
Right, that's servelead2.com. It'll have all the stuff on there where we've been and all that. But it was just, I tell you what, like when I was coaching, it was probably, 13 years ago or something, 13, 14 years ago. We had won 3 state championships, and I still didn't feel, I don't know, it's kind of crazy to say, but I didn't feel fulfilled. I just didn't feel like we were doing enough. I really didn't. And we'd done our little camps and all that kind of stuff, but I just felt like we had a bigger platform and we wanted to do more. And that at the time we called it More Than a Game, and I was partnered with someone else, and which was great. And we went all over the world, but we didn't have the faith part of it wasn't in front. And I wanted, when I got sick, right before then, it was kind of crazy because I had decided that, I wanted to do the same thing, but call it Serve to Lead, and just make sure that everyone knew that, this was a faith-based organization, and we were going to constantly have that out in front. And the next week is when I found out I had stage 4 colon cancer. So, it's I just knew, looking back on it, I just knew that was just an indication to me that it was the right decision to go a different direction, to make sure that people know that I love Jesus and we love Jesus, and we just want them to know that, So, but yeah, we go to places. Last summer we went to 6 different countries in Eastern Europe. It was amazing. We had never, done that before. We've been all the way from Taiwan. We've been Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Dominican. We've probably been to, 13, 14 countries, but we basically go to places and we try to renovate or build fields and donate equipment, but share our faith, so that they know that God is there for them if they need that. So a lot of our former players, go on these trips, and current players, and we've been doing it long enough where I have kids that have led trips for me too. Come through our programs and stuff. So it's pretty amazing to get other people in the community. It's not just our people; it's from all different schools, and God's truly blessed it, man. We have great local support, with financially, from companies and stuff. So, I appreciate you asking about it. It's, I wrote, Serve to Lead 2, and I just kind of mirrored it after that, to be honest. And, I just felt like they went hand. That's the way we went.
Yeah, I was on the website before we got on today, and I was looking through there, and you got three pretty good folks that have a testimonial about your book, Serve to Lead Too. You got Tim Hudson, who's a Hall of Famer. You've got Butch Thompson, the current head coach at Auburn, and then you've
Right.
got a legendary coach from Wichita State, Gene Stevenson, who I remember back in the '80s when I was in high school watching the College World Series every year in Omaha. It seemed like every year Gene Stevenson had Wichita State there. I mean, just tremendous baseball coach, and
You want to talk about a dude? He is a dude.
he is a dude. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
And
Yeah, I've
you got
actually stayed in his
testimonials about
house.
your book. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I've stayed in his house, dinners together at national conventions. Man, he is just amazing. He has an amazing story. Anyway, we can't get into all that, but yeah, incredible.
We could talk for days about stuff like that because I'd listen. I guarantee you, I'd listen. But servetolead2.com.
Yes, sir. Yep.
That's the website people
That's
can
correct.
go to.
Serve the lead and
learn more about it.
Yep.
You can be a part of it. You can donate. You can learn how everything works. You can get the book. You can find out where to get the book. Coach, just appreciate you spending time. I know we've been on here for a good bit longer than we intended to, but it's been so good. It's been great having you. Again, congratulations on this year, but congratulations for a career of being a coach who has stepped up and who has made a difference. And that's what this podcast is all about. Step up and make a difference. You've been willing to step up. You've been willing to make a difference, and you've done it for a long time. And you have influenced a lot of players. And hopefully through this, maybe it'll get the word out and you're going to influence some other coaches. And maybe you'll get some inquiries and some phone calls off of this, where other coaches will see what you've done and maybe want to talk about it because I know you're willing to. And
yes, sir. That would
you're
be
willing
amazing,
to share.
man. Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for being with us. All the best to you, and I know I'm going to see you, here and there and yonder over the next months. If just being around. But if we can ever do anything for you, if Marty and I could ever do anything for you, all you got to do is give us a shout. And we appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much. And Marty.
All right, everybody. Yep. All right, everybody. That's it for this week's edition of an extended edition of Step Up and Make a Difference. Thanks to Coach Tim Fanning. And we apologize again for Marty coming kind of in and out, but he was having a whole lot of internet connectivity issues. He'll be back with us next week. We'll get him a booster or something so it works good next week. And we'll be back next week with another guest here on the Step Up, Make a Difference podcast. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Spread the word. Share this around. We want to get this in front of as many people as we can and get it to take off because we want everybody, especially in the coaching and play and athletics realm, we want them to know that there are coaches out there who are willing to make a difference, who are willing to step up, and who are willing to serve not only the athletes that they're coaching, but also the parents, the school communities that they're in, and that they're going to make a difference in those lives, and they're going to do it through faith in Jesus Christ, number one, and number two, because that's what God put them there to do. It is a calling, and that's what we are here for. And so, thanks again. Have a great week. We'll see you next week.
God bless. Awesome.